I thank you for tuning in to The Solution Is You. I am very grateful for another opportunity to be able to help and inspire someone. Now, today's video is about choices and how they affect different aspects of our lives. So let me tell you my story. At the age of 14, me and one of my sisters had to enter a children's home. And this was because my great aunt, who had basically raised me the majority of my life, was in a stressful situation. She had to care for her sick husband, who was a double amputee, a veteran of the war, and that was a lot. There were a lot of medical bills, and it was stressful to raise two young children who needed a lot of attention. And at this time, my mom was in and out of my life, and I did not meet my dad until I was 24. He had no idea that I existed. So at the age of 14, my great aunt had promised me and my sister that she would come and pick us up after 1 year of being in the children's home. So this gave her the time that she needed to get her affairs in order to take care of her husband. So I remember arriving at the children's home. The dorms are split up. So you had male dorm and female dorms. So when I got there, they were at full capacity in the teenage male dorm. So I had to spend about 2 months with the smaller kids. So we were in there and we were watching, little videos such as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I remember watching Beethoven, and we would watch little innocent children's movies like that. But when the space became available at the teenage dorm, then I moved over there. So it was pretty typical, as you would see, transitioning in with the older kids. You always have somebody who wants to be the bully, and you would have someone who was very talented and whatever. And, you had to get adjusted to the new lifestyle. But most of all, everything was cool. So it was almost like school. So at certain times you would have studying, and at other times you would go out to enjoy yourself, whether it was some type of sport, football, basketball, or whatever. And when it came lunchtime or mealtime, you would go to chow. Now, one thing about the children's home is that once I got adjusted, it was fun. There was actually one guy in there that I remember from my old neighborhood. So I wasn't surprised to see him there because, in my neighborhood, I saw that he would have issues with his mom. And so it wasn't surprising to see him there, but it was good just to see a familiar face. But however, I had a great time in the children's home. They took very good care of us. We went on a lot of outings. We went skating. We went to the movies. We would go to the mall, and when it came Christmas time, they would take good care of us. They had a list for each of us to fill out. And believe me, everything that was on that list, they provided. So I remember the theme back then was the Chicago Bulls. And I requested a lot of Chicago Bulls merchandise, and I had hats and all sorts of things. So, it was a very good time inside of the children's home. So at about exactly 1 year, as promised, my great aunt came back and got me and my sister. And so she took us back home. And it was hard to leave the children's home at that time because I had established so many good relationships and had such a great time that it was very hard to leave. But nonetheless, me and my sister, we went back with our great aunt and just picked up on life where it left off. So At that time, I was headed over to high school as a freshman. So my great aunt did the best that she could in raising me and my sister. Just speaking for myself, I remember on Tuesdays where my aunt would have to go to something called the mission. And the mission was simply an organization who would come out to the local neighborhood and will have a giveaway of food and clothing. So whoever would be the first to come would be the first to get served. So I remember driving up, I would be in the back seat of her Lincoln Marquis, and we would drive up to the mission, and we would be one of the first ones there amongst other women. And I would see on the table, they would have loaves of bread and boxes of raisins and other things, a lot of clothing, jeans, and things of that nature. And my aunt would get out of the car. And you know, this was during the time where you didn't question adults. So, you know, it was in, you know, as I observed everything that was going on, so she would get out of the car and she would kind of glance at her watch just to see what time it was so that she could be the first one to that table to take advantage of all of the free stuff that she could in order to provide for us. So when it hit the time that the mission stated that you could come and pick up the clothing or the food, she would start running to the table. And she would come back with lots of clothing and food for us. And that was just one way of her, you know, getting things to take care of us. So she tried to do the best that she could to take care of us. And it was hard considering that we were growing children. And I remember that a lot of the clothing that she would have for us, for me, would be undesirable clothing. And that's what I believed at the time, because some of the clothing that she would have would be bell bottoms. And at the time, bell bottoms could get you clowned in school. And she would have shirts for me, which were butterfly collar shirts, which was something of the 70s. You know, here it was, you know, early 90s. So I had bell bottom pants and butterfly collar shirts. And I had, you know, cheap shoes that I would wear with sometimes no sole on the bottom. But she did the best that she could. So this was the type of clothing that I would have. Sometimes I would have girl clothing, so it would be like girl jeans. And, you know, the older people then, what they believed in is that as long as you had something to wear, that was no issue. At least you had something to wear. As opposed to now where you have to have certain things a certain way, certain designer clothing or whatnot. And so, you know, I had a very tough time when it came to attending school, but I attended school every day. So when I would go to catch the bus in our neighborhood, which I would have to catch the bus with kids from our housing project, you know, there were some unpleasant times. So when I was in high school, I was there to handle business. Now, I was always the type of person who never got in trouble, but also wasn't a pushover. So I did just enough to stay cool with everyone. So I went through my fair share of being ridiculed, and as far as the clothing that I would wear, I was a nerd because every day I came in and I had my books and I would go to work. And, you know, I was the person where when someone needed to cheat, they would want my answers. And so, you know, I was very quiet. I wasn't a ladies' man in school. I just kind of did my thing and went home. And so I really didn't get cool in high school until around the 10th grade. That's when things started to pick up for me. But before then, things were really hard. So as far as, you know, fighting in the school, you know, like I said, I had to attend school with individuals from the housing project from my local neighborhood. So there was a certain level of protection that I sought from, or that I took advantage of from being around folks from public housing. And because, you know, I had been raised in that area, you know, I knew a lot of the kids that I would go to school with. So I was cool with a lot of them, regardless of my personal situation. You know, they respected me, and, you know, I didn't have any issues. So, you know, in school, you know, through my entire time in high school, I probably got in maybe no more than 4 fights. You know, and these were situations where I was defending a friend, or I was, you know, just doing something to prevent anyone from picking on me. And the only time I would get suspended from school was a situation where I had to attend detention, maybe because I was late for whatever reason, but nothing serious. So in 10th grade, you know, outside of high school, when I was at home, I had a job. So I had a job that I was working. It was a fast food job, and which was my only fast food job. So when I would get out of high school, 10th grade, I would come home and I would go to my fast food job. And actually, I had a couple of buddies from my neighborhood who we all went to school together, and I was able to get them on at the job that I was at after I had been there about a year or so. So, you know, I was working the fast food job, and I had worked there for 3 years. And so, you know, for 3 years, I had been going to school, getting off, and then I would go to work. And so by doing that, you know, I had a certain level of money that I would keep, and I was able to upgrade my clothing. And, you know, at the time, jewelry was hot, gold jewelry. So I would have several pieces of gold jewelry. And, you know, once I became a senior, I had a car. But by this time, I had already moved out of my aunt's home at the age of 16. I left. And that was because, you know, I made a choice to do that because I didn't have complete control over the money that I was making through the church program, which I went over in a previous video of mine. So there was a church program in which, you know, I did work through in the summertime, and all of the money that I would make, my aunt would put it up. So to ensure that I had complete control of that money, I decided to move out. That was one reason I moved out, but I decided to move out so I can have 100% control over the money. And so I could have freedom over some of the things that I did. And there were other things that I wanted to take advantage of, you know, and it was hard to do being under the supervision of my great aunt at the time due to a lot of, you know, stressful things just growing up. So I made the choice to move out of the home at 16, and there was a woman that I had met at my job, my restaurant job. And so, you know, that was one of the main reasons on why I moved out. I felt like I had more stability in that situation by me having a job, going to school, and then, you know, being around a woman. So that was a choice that I made. And I thought at that time it was the best choice. And so, you know, once I moved out, after a certain amount of time, I stopped attending school as a senior. So I would so at this time I was completely out of my local neighborhood. And so I had a car, but, you know, we shared that in between the girl I was with. And so I would catch the city bus in order to get to school. But I stopped going to school as often as I did because I thought I was too cool for school. And I thought at the time that I had plenty of money, I have a job, I have a roof over my head, I'm able to feed myself, I have, you know, all these different things, and I thought I had a lot going for me, and I didn't need school. And so, you know, I dropped out. And there was no one encouraging me, including the woman that I was with. And so, you know, I just continued just to work this one restaurant job that I had. So I actually moved up from being a regular team member to shift supervisor. And, you know, I had responsibilities as a supervisor, and I took it serious. And I had the opportunity to go from shift supervisor to assistant manager, but I couldn't make that jump because of my education. You know, I hadn't received my diploma, or I didn't have a GED, so therefore I couldn't be promoted because of that particular reason. And when I would serve, so at this job, I would serve different individuals. So I had people from nearby hospital would come in, and I had a few police officers that would come in. You know, everyone that you can imagine would come in to order food. And different individuals, including a few police officers, would come in, and they would basically tell me how intelligent I was and that I was too smart to continue working there. You know, and I also had a buddy of mine who worked at the restaurant who would always tell me to go back and get my GED. So at the time, I was very hard-headed. I was bent on proving to everyone that I could do whatever I needed to without furthering my education. So that was a bad decision, or a choice that I made at that time. But I did take the time to go back, and it took me no time at all. It only took me, I think, 2 days tops to go and take the GED test to get my GED in the mail just a few months later. And this was after I had remained out of school, high school, for about 3 years. So that was a very good decision that I made to go back and get it, because life is very hard without having a high school diploma or a GED. And so since I got my GED, you know, I never looked back. I've worked at some of the largest corporations. I've trained a lot of people in different aspects or different positions. I have improved my lifestyle a lot of different ways. And let me tell you, when it comes to education, there's a lot of things that you can do to improve your lifestyle. You know, college is a great option. You know, for those of you who are interested in college, I would say there are pros and cons. Just know exactly what it is that you want to go into, and ensure that it's something that's going to make you money. Don't just go into something just to say that you went to school. Go into something that is going to make you money. You can also self-educate yourself. Self-education is huge. You know, now we're moving to an environment where people will pay you based on skill and not necessarily a diploma or a certificate. You know, so the world is yours, and whatever you choose to do is based off of your decision. It's important to become informed in everything that you can possibly get into, because the more you know, that in itself enriches you. The more information that you have, the more empowered that you become. It's important to understand how your choices affect your lifestyle. Be careful about those who you hang around that are not in your best interests. Personally, I never was into college, and that's because of the way I was raised and the things that I had experienced, you know, leading up to me leaving high school. But however, after I received my GED, I did enroll myself into community college, and I attended for about 4 months, and that was for criminal justice. You know, when I was younger, I had always wanted to become a police officer and eventually an FBI agent. So I did everything up to that point to put myself in position. And this was, you know, I didn't have a lot of guidance, so a lot of things I had to figure out for myself. So just in general, I had to learn quick. By me leaving the house at age 16, and I'm being around a lot of adults, being in different areas of town, you know, there were some individuals who looked at me as being naive. So there was a certain level of awareness and intelligence that I had to have in order to survive the streets. And I've always had a go-getter's mindset. I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset, because usually if you're in a situation, you don't have a GED or a diploma, and you need money, the next thing is you're looking at, how can I make money? And so that's where most entrepreneurs come from. They come from an environment in which they're deprived of resources or whatnot. And so they have a mind that's hell-bent on making things work. So whatever resources or scraps they're given, they're going to make it work. And so that's the mindset I had. So when I was enrolled in community college, which I attended for about 4 months before I left, while I was sitting in the classroom, I just always had this thing in the back of my mind that it was hard to sit there. It was just hard to complete, a day in a classroom. I've always believed that anything that I wanted to accomplish, I could do that. But being in the classroom just wasn't for me. And, through experience, I found, in different endeavors, I found that I was very, very good at creating my own income. And, just decisions that I made through not having the correct guidance or whatnot throughout my younger years is the only thing that deterred me, and which led to me making bad decisions as well. Some that I made intentionally, some that were made just me not knowing. So decisions that I made hindered me from making the type of money that I really could make. And so, I would say to those who want to become entrepreneurs is that you have to have a go-getter mindset. Not only do you have to be motivated, but you have to be willing to put in the work. And putting in the work is going to be tougher than just working your 9 to 5. You're going to have to put in more hours. You're going to have to fail several times. You're going to have to be able to balance life, whether you have a family, and you're going to have to balance work. And you're going to have to do both of those for an extended period of time. Because you didn't start something at a certain time that you were supposed to start it, doesn't mean that you get to shortcut the process. And that's how a lot of people end up quitting and giving up on life or whatever goals that they have, is because they want to shortcut because of time that they have missed or time that they have intentionally overlooked. So it is important to understand how your decisions affect your relationship. So when you get into a relationship and your significant other and there are certain needs and wants that she has, it's important to understand that the things that you do early in life, whether it's achieving your goals and earning money and becoming stable, going to college to major in something that's going to make you money when you come out of college, those things are very important, plays a huge role in how successful that your relationship is down the road. And although there are exceptions, you can be a person who attends school and you do all the right things, and things in your personal relationship don't work out, but that may be for some other reason, and that's not practical. So it's important that you understand there's a series of things that you have to have working for you. So you have to be honest and trustworthy, and you have to work smart, work hard. You have to understand balance and when to implement it. You have to be open to suggestions and criticism. You also have to be willing to empower yourself by becoming informed and understand how to work with others and understand how to lead. That's very important, especially for men. And for women, you have to understand how to, listen and lead as well, and also be understanding and trustworthy and loyal. And so these are all the things that, and the characteristics that we need to be successful in life. So nothing in life is easy. Nothing is granted or given. You know, these things that we earn are things that can benefit us and others that we surround ourselves with. So I hope there are many different lessons that you learn from my story. And I hope that you get some type of benefit from my videos. Again, I do appreciate you for tuning in. I am very grateful to be able to talk and be able to share my experiences, and hopefully I'm touching and helping someone and inspiring all of those who wish to improve their lifestyle. I thank you for listening to me today. Please understand that the solution is you. With that, have a great day.